the trying to put together a long-term vision for this region. We've called it 2060. Some people say that's too far to look out, but whatever, we need to be thinking about where we're going as a region and how we're going to end up in the future. And I think it's particularly relevant to this topic when we talk about climate change, when we really need to be thinking about how we are integrating our land use and transportation decision making, and how we are thinking thoughtfully about our decision making at the local level. And these are things that we've got to be very careful to be smart about, I would tell you. Again, the partnership that we have had with FAU and other universities here has been very important in all of this. But one of the things we're going to try to focus on here within the near term, because I think it may be something we can utilize some of the stimulus money for, we're getting some positive feedback about it, are community-based initiatives. So those of you that are working at the community level need to be talking with us about how we can support those issues and those initiatives, trying to move forward at the sort of a macro, micro kind of level, but we really are right now being asked to put forward some proposals with the Economic Development Administration and others for funding some of those things that would be important. And I think when we talk about this topic of climate change, we all know that within our region particularly, the better job we can do at the community level, the better job we're going to do in managing this issue in the long run. So I just want to put that out there for discussion. What are we doing now and what's going on? Obviously, Jim has already told you, I'm chair of both the Miami-Dade and the Broward County Intergovernmental Coordination Committees on climate change. What we do in that area is try to bring up issues related to land use, natural resource protection, and the whole challenge of maintaining sustainable communities. Again, your ideas and your information on that will be helpful to us. We have had at the Regional Planning Council, I think, are most all of you familiar with what the Regional Planning Council is? Is anybody not aware of it? Okay, good. Then I'll go with that. We have had a Clean Cities program going on for quite a bit of time that deals with alternatively fueled vehicles and how to try to reduce the emissions that comes from cars and how to get cleaner fuels out on the road. We think that's going to get reinvigorated over this next period of time because of some of the new policy directives nationally. If you have an interest in that, please talk to our office. Larry Allen is the person that works on that program, but you can call any of us and get engaged. We're very fortunate. The people that work on that program are very energized on it and really stay very engaged. So we think that that's very important. Again, one of the things that, and I'm trying to look at my notes to make sure I don't leave off anything that's important. I feel like my jobs are our staff's job, because I don't do this by myself by any means. We've got many staff people that work together on these issues. But one of our jobs is to work between and with all our counties, but also around the state and even at the federal level to make sure that we're, getting information together and making it available to you, those of you that are working in this area. And also I will tell you, one of the things we've had a little bit of a hard time communicating well is that we're not really the heart of a domestic region. We're the heart of an international region here in Southeast Florida. And we've got to be very, very careful not to be out-competed by those that try to articulate themselves as part of domestic continental United States regions. And I think that's something we're going to have as a challenge as we go forward. And this whole issue of climate change engages, as we all know now, many countries and many participants. And so that's something we're going to try to put on the table and get a little bit more engagement on as we go forward. There's not a common level of understanding at this point between every municipality or every county government, et cetera, about what it means to be engaged in this discussion. So we're going to need to come up with some common measures, I would say. I think that might be the right way to articulate it, of how we can articulate the fact that we're going forward in a positive way. So we're going to be focusing on that. We're going to try to come up with some ideas. Anybody that's got some ability or desire to be engaged in that conversation, that would be very helpful to us. There are some events that are getting ready to happen down at the city of Miami. Is going to have one on April 7th, I believe it is. It's called Green Way to Green. They're having a big festival, as it were, about venues and vendors, exactly, that would be able to provide green, products. And we've already made the effort. We're inviting, and I have already done this, to invite municipalities as well as others that can take advantage of that. That's an example of how we're trying to work together to get information out there in the marketplace and try to move forward in a positive way, because I don't think this is something that is clearly understood by any of us, and it's something that we're all learning about all the time. I had in my notes what comes next. I think we just talked about the fact that what comes next is some common identification of goals and objectives that we want to meet together. And if we can agree on some of them, then we'll be able to work together to move forward in that regard. And I'll just tell you, and because we're at the university and they've been such a great partner with us for such a long time, if there are those of you that are in school here that are looking for internship opportunities or looking for opportunities to work in this environment, give us a call. Again, you've got my name, Carolyn Deagle, Director with South Florida Regional Planning Council. Our website is www.sfrpc.com. Please just send an email if you'd like to. These times are challenging for all of us, so it's going to be necessary for us all to work together as we move forward in making progress. But I think that we can do that together, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you for a little bit this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next, getting a little bit more specific now about the policy implications of what we know about climate change, and especially as our local communities start thinking about making major investments in infrastructure, especially the water, drainage, roads. These are long-term investments, well within the time frames of some of the impacts that the science panel identified earlier. So we've asked Dr. Fred Blotcher from our Department of Civil Engineering at FAU. Fred, not only does he teach and research and publish in this area, he also is very active with our public water supply entities and has advised them and perhaps interacted with many of you. So to talk about this very important issue to Southeast Florida, Dr. Blotcher.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and kind of go over some thoughts. We could spend hours on this topic and only scratch the surface of what the potential issues with this stuff right here might be. And in the future, what we may find is that we have way more of it than we think we need, versus we kind of have that now certain times of the year. So let's see if I can do this. Let me give you a quick background, and there's a couple things here we want to be paying attention to. How many people live west of the railroad tracks in the room? Really? All the rest of you live east of it, or live somewhere else completely? Doesn't matter. We're both at high points. Henry Flagler used to go away from Ohio. He put the railroad in the right place. Historically, this is what the Everglades was. There was a ridge out there, that mountain that I live on. It's 10 feet above sea level. Okay? That's where Henry put the railroad tracks. And historically, everything that was west of the tracks was welcome to the Everglades. Okay? And the Everglades came all the way that direction. And it was kind of this map that you've seen a little earlier. Understand that underneath the Everglades is the Biscayne Aquifer. So I keep telling all my utility friends, we all should be great environmentalists. If there's water in the Everglades, there can't be no water on the East Coast because that's our water supply. So keep that in mind as well. We decided to improve things. One thing that we can say about our civil engineering brethren in the past, they were very effective at what they were told to do. This is a much more successful project than anybody had any concept that it might be. Okay? So what we did was we created all this happy land over there for people to live in that is at elevation 4, 5. Anybody from Sweetwater? 3, 2, Hollywood Lakes area. Anything east of I-95 or US 1? Okay. So anyway, we created basically if you're east of US 1 or you live in Weston, you're at the same elevation. And that has a big implication of what we're talking about. So we managed the system. We spent not $20 billion, but we spent that to undo it. And understand that we put these canals in for a specific reason. We wanted stuff in the west to flow east, but because it's lower land, we actually had to cut through. So we created canals that do a very effective job at draining the aquifer. And in fact, it's almost impossible in the south part of Broward County and Dade County. The salinity structures are so far inland, it's virtually impossible to retain fresh water in the system. So this is a problem. Now, so what we do, I keep telling my friends at the Water Management District that the idea of keeping the canal levels up is not to put water into the aquifer. It's to keep from draining the aquifer, because that's, water goes out of rock into nothing much easier than it goes the other way. So the concept is we want to go ahead and keep water in the canals and keep levels up. And the idea here is understand that most of us rely on groundwater. So that's kind of a map of the South Florida Water Management District, and everybody's on groundwater. In fact, Dade County and Broward County are amongst the largest groundwater utilities in the United States, Dade being the largest. So, we keep having all these people come to Florida, at least the last year. And we have the Everglades, and we have agriculture, and they don't use any water, just ask them. Tell me. 54 to 60 inches of rainfall, and for whatever reason we call 54 drought. And then we have, a tropical climate, and we keep talking about drought. And I looked at the last 4 years when we had the drought of biblical proportions in the coastal areas of Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, were somewhere around 7% below normal. So just keep that in mind. It's where the water is that's important. It wasn't in the Everglades. That's the problem. We have this problem that we're dealing with. So as you're a water utility, all that pink area means you're running in a deficit, which means that you've got to get water from somewhere. Of course, the rest of the year, water's washing out the tide. And it's a problem of management of water supplies in Florida. And it's about to get more complicated. So we have drought. And basically it says, the Water Management District said we have drought, we need new projects, we need to do new things. We created a water availability rule. No more taking water out of the Biscayne aquifer. Go find another interesting source for your water supply. And then, so they came up with these options as where do we get your water from? Getting water from somebody else, which I'm not sure how that solves anything. But if anybody has an idea, let me know. We can do aquifer storage and recovery, which we have one of those that's successful in South Florida. We have alternative water sources like the Floridan aquifer that we modeled and found out it turns into saltier, or seawater. And of course we have the ever popular, let's reuse our wastewater on top of our drinking water supply option. And we're going to come back and talk about a couple of these because they play into kind of the bigger scenario. The idea with the regional water availability rule is this. We make the pie bigger. Okay? So we create water by reusing it. And the idea is, and I call this regenerated supplies because where it comes from is not as important as the fact that the pie gets bigger. So whether it's desal, it's reuse, it's rainwater capture, it's, we create reservoirs, whatever the issue is, it's water that we can add to the pie that may be available for use. And understand that the urban users in southeast Florida use a relatively small percentage of the rainfall that falls here. There are 20 billion gallons a day that are running out the tide today, yesterday. Middle of the drought. You just can't stop. So one of the issues that reuse is a big issue, is a big topic of conversation is the hole in the donut philosophy. And that is that everybody except Southeast Florida does real high reuse rates. But there's a failure to understand that things are significantly different in those areas. For example, in Orlando, you go ahead and put reuse everywhere, 100% reuse, it's sugar sand, it drains in the ground, and your elevation is 200. And your water supply is at elevation minus 150.